Greetings, friends. Earlier in the year, I talked about how I'm suspicious of all groups because they dumb us down, they disempower us. A group is far easier to control and manipulate than individuals. Now, I'm suspicious of any group larger than 7 or 8 people because, below that level, you can have real, genuine interaction with people face to face, learning from them, communicating with them. Something funny happens, some dynamic beyond that level once you get to 8 or 9 people. And I've seen this in language teaching, all the attention will have to go to one person at that time. It could work in a language class, but basically you still have a little cult going on, and that's how cult power can multiply. So be suspicious of all groups for how they will get you to think along one line, and it won't really be encouraging you to think critically and open your mind. You'll be sort of indoctrinated. That can happen in all sorts of ways. But the other thing that's going on is by participating in this group, obviously you're getting a certain sense of satisfaction, and women are like that more than men. Women are more social than men. Women like to feel, more included in a group than men need to, unless it's like a beta male who's being, brought up to always be needy and not being comfortable on his own. Then that could happen. But generally, men are more comfortable with this. But the problem is that when you participate in a larger group, this is not always the case, but it seems to be generally that it's going to deteriorate, it's going to break down your body, not just your mind. And this may not have always been the case, but I think it often was the case throughout history. But today we see it very prominently in 3 different areas: eating with friends and family, or going to bars and restaurants. And then the third category would be media, mainly movies and television. So getting to the first category, American Thanksgiving is coming up. We actually had Thanksgiving in Canada in October. I know it's kind of weird because it's Canada. It gets so cold here so early. We have to have the Thanksgiving earlier. But that's one of the few times of the year I'll get together with the small family that I do have here in Toronto, and that's great. And but I have my own schedule of when I eat, and now they're eating kind of early at 6 p.m. I don't like to eat then, so am I gonna have to force myself to eat like I just ate at 2 p.m.? So already that's a social activity that if you're not in the general sync with the rest of the mass of humanity in the city that's generally waking up around 7:30 and eating at lunch at 12 and eating dinner at 6, if you're not in sync with that, well, then you might just have to stuff yourself to go along or refuse to eat. And I actually refuse to eat, not to be impolite, but it's just like, honestly, I have food in my stomach. And before, when we were sitting in the living room, there was the television was on, and I was like, oh, can't we change it to something else? Because I'm already getting, this brainwashing material. I'm trying not to look at it, but it was some mainstream news organization, and it's like, thankfully, some NFL football game was on, and that's being corrupted too with social justice. But that was the best thing I could find, was an NFL football game. At least the game was already on, so it's like, okay, at least I saved myself there. That's a different type of social thing, to watch the game and then drink the beers. But I'm glad I was able to at least get it to that from the fucking news. It's better to watch an NFL football game and drunk than it is to watch the mainstream media news sober. But anyways, it's still group activity, and but that's just making it worse. And then, there's hors d'oeuvres, or the chips, potato chips, or something else. You're going to be eating that. It's like, no, I don't want to eat potato chips. I don't want to eat snack food. I'll eat lunch and dinner, 2 big meals a day. That's what I do, and I stated that. So being social already, there's this assumption that you have to be in sync, you have to be in tune with the timing of other people. I go to bed extremely late at night, as you might notice from when I post videos. Overeating, eating stuff that that's really good, but maybe eating too much stuff. So there's this deterioration of your body because this is unhealthy, and it's like this strange bind by. We don't want to be lonely. We want to participate to sustain the relationships that we have. But then when we do that, we also break down our bodies slowly over time through participating in these activities of overeating or eating food that's not that healthy, or just, not sitting around and whatever. I mean, there's that this can be health. Obviously, I'm not saying don't see your family and friends. I'm just saying there's often this unhealthy aspect to it. Now, the second example I mentioned was bars, restaurants, and I could have mentioned alcohol with Thanksgiving too. I mean, there's, I've talked about alcohol before. I don't have anything against it. I try not to drink very frequently, though. Luckily, I don't have any desire to have any alcohol in my fridge, but there's other people who that's harder for them not to drink, and being in a social gathering, that just makes it even harder. That's the thing for me. That's why I drink, is only in social situations. It's so hard in this Western culture because it's part of our culture. It has been for thousands of years, and other cultures too. But to drink beer and spirits, all that kind of stuff, wine, and so I mean, my friends might want to meet up on to again watch some football game, or not even really watch the game, but just like, oh, that's an excuse to go to the bar and then hang out there. And they're like, sure, I'll do that, but it's like kind of weird if I don't. Actually, last time I just got food there. I didn't get a beer, but even getting the food, it's like that's a pretty greasy meal. It was some fajita with French fries, and it tasted amazing, but it's like probably not the healthiest meal. I probably could just cook something for myself. But I want, my friendships are important to me. I want to sustain those friendships. And we can't always just be hanging out here, or, I mean, it's better if we go biking or we do something like that. But obviously there's going to be situations where it's like meet up at a bar, and that's automatically unhealthy because you can, or unless you're just going to sit there at a bar and just drink water. Like, what else could you ask? Could you ask for a Coca-Cola or a ginger ale? Yeah. But I don't really like drinking that either. That's also like going to break down your body. It's if you like it, that's like acidic and highly sugared water. If you left a tooth inside a bowl of Coca-Cola, the tooth would dissolve into nothing in like over an hour or 2 hours. I'm sure that's what would happen. Or overnight for sure, it would dissolve. Nothing wrong with a rum and Coke. I'm just saying, but it's like for some people who do this more regularly, like, man, that's just going to break down your body. It's going to make you feel like shit. So this is why I don't do this very often. That's why I'm not so extroverted, so social. I couldn't be, I wouldn't want to be. But I also think it's healthier to be a little antisocial, not completely antisocial, but not to have this need to be social. Because in our culture, if it doesn't mean doing sports and biking or just hanging out, then pretty much you have to eat or drink something, or go to the movies, and or watch television, which is, again, that's not so much for your body, but that's not healthy for your mind generally. And I don't really see Hollywood movies very often. I went to see Blade Runner with my friend Peter about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, because I kind of wanted to see it because it sounded cool. And what did we do beforehand? Well, we went to a bar and had some drinks. Well, one drink. I think I just had a ginger ale and whiskey. And we went in there, and then the movie was really long, and it was, to be honest, the scenery was cool and all that stuff, but it was kind of a depressing movie. Maybe it was because I don't even particularly like alcohol, but, well, it's fun in the moment, but, it makes you feel depressed after 2 hours. That's how it often is. I'm not for everyone. And then, so this movie was feeling even more depressing, and honestly, my friend was like dozing off at times. It was like a 3-hour movie, and it was depressing. And it's like, I don't believe the planet's going to be fucked up like that in the future. There's nothing growing on the planet. I don't believe that's going to happen. That's terrible. That's not going to happen. And yet in the movie, people are drinking a lot of alcohol because everyone's so depressed, and there's just, I thought that was kind of funny. So that's even showing you something, that the alcohol is connected, and the consumption and all this. It's all the media consumption, the food consumption, the oily food. I was thinking of including shopping as another category, but I don't know. That's pretty much just women do that as a social activity. Men don't really do that, but that's another. And I don't have anything against consumption, okay? Like, people who look at all this terrible stuff and say that's capitalism, yeah, kind of, but also socialism would love all this stuff because it keeps us dumb. It keeps us, makes us die young. So then the new generation is harder to control. So that's why I think there's this weird bind that we're in. It doesn't always exist, but it's like you can go it on your own, but you risk alienation and being shunned. You can participate and have that fulfillment and inclusion, but you're also finding yourself participating in overeating or eating bad food or breaking your body down in other ways. And in any case, disempowering your mind. So, why? I mean, it doesn't have to be like that. Why not? We could go hiking. We could why not go for a drive? That might not be so healthy, but at least that's better than just going to a bar or just hanging out or doing something that isn't unhealthy. I don't know, but it's this weird double bind we've been found in. It's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You got to establish this sort of balance. And anyways, that's all I have to say for now. Hasta luego, amigos.